What's poppin', mi gente? Your boy is back with another video. Now, I was gonna put up the usual changelog this month. However, since there haven't been a lot of updates on the page for the last 2.5 months or so, I for once wanted to make more of a public update that not just my loyal patrons could see, but as well as the general public, in an effort to get this project a bit more exposure, because I'm currently only getting about $600 in donations a month. And that might sound like a lot of money, but considering the fact that I can easily put 100 hours into this project, that's not a lot at all. And, well, the lower the donations, the more time I have to spend working to, be able to pay the bills and everything else. So, I mean, real life has to come first. Anybody who's worked with me will tell you, I preach that all the time. So, here we are, and that's what's been going on the last 2.5 months, is real life has really been keeping me busy. So I have not been able to work on the project as much as I'd like to. Now this month though, I did get a lot of stuff done. A lot of which I really just can't share with people because, well, spoilers. But I still wanted to post up an update, let people know I haven't died, let people know that development on the project is coming along just fine, because I get it. People don't see something, they think there's some kind of problem. They think I've fallen off. Whatever. On that note, if you're looking on your screen right now, you all might notice a Word document. If you look in the lower left, it has roughly 5,300 words and it's 8 pages long. Now, it's not arbitrary that I have that up on the screen. That's actually my own little personal Bible for the weapons in the project and their unique little idiosyncrasies. Now, for those who don't know, I'm a big believer in function over form. And what that means is, while I want things to look cool, I'm more worried about them being enjoyable and working properly. The reason I state this is because a while back I put up a number of weapon animations, which I'm going to be including throughout the rest of this video as we go through it, that I'll give credit to the artist. He did an amazing job. But the problem is, at the time, the plan for the weapons was simply for there to be two types of weapon sets. Weapon set A being basic swords and clubs, in which case each one you get just gets better and better, a little more range, a little more damage, a little more stun. And then the same thing was going to be done with spears and two-handed swords. So I had about 11 sets of weapon animations made for swords and clubs, and about 10 made for spears and two-handed swords. Don't let the two-handed swords terminology fool you. They still just take up one weapon slot for Alucard. There are some weapons that take up 2 slots, but they're extremely powerful ones, like the Alucard set, which is the sword and shield, or the Alucard spear, or Death Scythe, but we're not going to go into more details on those because spoilers. But anyway, I digress. But that was the original plan, is just for weapons to be upgrades of each other, and to be frank, I thought that was fucking lame. I mean, I really didn't enjoy it. Having a weapon that just, okay, I got another sword, another club, yay, new animation, a little more damage, was just boring. So, instead I chose to go more of what I would call a Dead Cells route. And that is to try to make each and every weapon unique in its own little way, but without going the Dead Cells route. So what do I mean by that? Because it sounds like I'm contradicting myself. Well, I love the game Dead Cells. I love games like Hollow Knight, Blasphemous. I mean, the list goes on and on here. The thing is, though, I didn't want to put in a bunch of weapons that just feel like a very minor difference from one another. I didn't want it to feel like I was just putting in a ton of different weapons just to put in a ton of different weapons, and that's where I feel Dead Cells is right now, but that's another story. I instead wanted to put in weapons that had a little more depth to them. And what I mean by that is, you're not just running around and slashing away, dodge occasionally, drop a sub-weapon, and that's your gameplay. I wanted it to be something where the weapons had things where you could launch enemies, knock them back, ground bounce them, and anybody who's played the demo or seen any of the videos I put up recently have seen that even Rondo Richter has those features. The problem is, though, if you're going to include that level of depth with your weapons, you've also got to find a way to balance it out so that, yes, you can still inflict those statuses, we call them combo states, on enemies, while making sure each weapon doesn't feel exactly the same. And that's something I've been putting off for a long time, but this month, well, as you can tell by the 5,300 words in this document and the 8 pages, I went ahead and got that done. Not gonna lie, it took a long time. I probably spent about 12 days out of the month working on this for hours a day, just checking out different videos from dozens of games and looking for inspiration and lore and looking at different Castlevania games. And I even sat down and watched all of Castlevania Nocturne and reviewed a couple episodes from the original Castlevania series to give me ideas, and I'm glad I did because it gave me a lot of them. Now, you'll notice I've so far mentioned regular weapons. You have basically 2 weapon slots, and that's for regular weapons like swords, the various swords, great swords, spears, clubs, shields. Alucard now has ranged weapons such as he has his destruction orbs from Castlevania 3. They use the flame pillar that Alucard uses as their critical art. Anyone who's played the demo will also notice that you have 2 basic attack buttons with Rondo Richter. One lets you use your whip, the other lets you use your flaming whip and through fireballs. The regular whip is attack button 1, fireball 1's attack 2, but you'll also notice you had 2 shoulder buttons for critical arts. One block with the whip, one spun with it. The same thing applies to the weapons Alucard has. To give you an example, the destruction orbs I just mentioned, Alucard throws out 3 orbs twice, then does a slower animation where he throws out 5. These destruction orbs will pierce multiple enemies, but they have short to medium range. And he uses the flame pillar that Dracula uses during the prologue fight as the critical art for it. It consumes MP. That's a long story made very short. I'll go into more depth on the weapons on another day, but this video is already going on 6.5 minutes. So I don't want to go into too much here because I haven't even gone into how this is all going to work with the demo plan for Alucard. The initial release is going to include just the Alucard set. That's the Alucard sword and shield. Once I get the training room out completed for Alucard, different story, I'll be putting a couple of different weapons in there so you guys can try out the various weapons. I want to include one type of regular sword. Right now I'm planning to do the Gladius. I want to include one kind of club type weapon. I'm still on the fence whether I want to make that the Star Flail or the Morning Star because they both work different. In short, the Morning Star is very good against petrified or frozen enemies. The Star Flail will actually take an enemy that's poisoned or bled, and if you use it special, remove the stacks but inflict a good chunk of burst damage. I have the destruction orbs I just mentioned. I have Hellfire, which its critical art is Dark Inferno. I want to include one spear, which I'm thinking is the Partisan, which will be a spear with a tip, does more damage. And then for a 2-handed sword, the Flamberge I think will work. With the Flamberge is a type of sword that the quicker you swing it, or excuse me, the more consecutively you hit enemies with it, the faster the blade heats up. Until it heats up, then it's at top speed, and it'll start inflicting stacks of burn. If you hit an enemy that's been shocked or is on fire, it'll heat up the weapon faster, so obviously that's a bit of synchronization. I haven't forgotten shields. Shields right now I've really got creative with those. It took some effort to come up with something to make each one unique, but I'm pretty happy with it. Shields can block or perfect guard. Anybody who's used Richter and used this dangle whip in the prologue knows what I'm talking about. You can block or you can perfect guard. In which case a shield like the leather shield, that's the most basic one. Blocking raises your attack power slightly for a short time. Your perfect guard extends it. The goddess shield will actually arc off a holy beam when things are blocked. If you perfect guard, it does more damage. The fire shield, the more you block or perfect guard, it has a charge up attack that, you block your perfect guard, it increases the meter. Once it's fully charged, you can release a flame burst all around you, etc., etc. There are also 2 types of shields. The ones I just mentioned are what I call the light type of shields. They work like the ones you're used to in Symphony of the Night. They have their own critical art moves. At the moment, the critical art set for them involves a shield throw and a dashing forward kind of shield charge that auto perfect guards projectiles. And then we have what are called tower shields, which are a bigger type of shield. I converted some of the shields that were initially just regular old boring, regular old boring size ones in Symphony Night to larger ones. That includes the Knight Shield, the Iron Shield, the Herald Shield. And these have their own move set. They work a little different in that you can't move with them in your hands, but they block much more of you. They provide better defense. They raise your defense slightly. They have their own critical art that'll knock back enemies and block projectiles at the same time. And they have their own little idiosyncrasies. But I'm not going to continue talking about that because this video is already 10 minutes long here. And I've just gone over... I haven't even gone over a fraction of all the stuff I've done for the game so far, but a lot of time was spent this month going over this conceptual information, as well as, more importantly, coding in what I call a test room. It's a very bare-bones test room. I'm not going to show it only because whenever I show these things, I tend to get a lot of people who And for the Patreon supporters, I'm not worried about you guys. You guys already know I'm getting things done. You see the development. But a lot of people who just pop onto the Patreon page not knowing much about the project see these test rooms and freak out going, oh, their game's look like crap, it looks terrible, you know, he's not doing anything, etc., etc. It just doesn't end good with all the questions I get about it, or all the naysayers, so I'm just not going to do it. The other thing is, again, it's something that's just designed for testing purposes. It's pretty bare bones and ugly, but I gotta say, it really does pay off to take the time and as a developer to do these things. Because they might be ugly looking, but they really do make the development cycle progress so much more smoothly. And I now have a schema set up so I can test all kinds of things and just make sure that none of the weapons are particularly broken. I also haven't discussed sub weapons, which I'm going to briefly touch on here, only because this video is now going on 11 minutes here. Sub weapons are different than they were before. You might have noticed if you played the prologue, Richter had a sub and a crash, because that's Rondo Richter. He's the legacy character. Modern characters have 2 sub-weapons. Sub-weapons have cooldown. They consume hearts. I'm considering putting something in where if it's on cooldown, you could spend some extra hearts to still use the sub-weapon again, but only to a certain extent, so you can't abuse it. But at the moment, to name some of the sub-weapons Alucard has, because I just mentioned Hellfire and Dark Inferno, for example, being a weapon set. Hellfire being the regular attack, full screen range, shoots 3 fireballs. Dark Inferno being the critical art, knocks back enemies, because guess what? Hellfire fireballs do more damage the further enemies are. So those 2 moves synchronize together, they go good together, but that's a basic weapon set. Sub-weapons at the moment, to name a few, Tetra Spirit, which is kind of a burst attack, launches 4 summon spirits, they track enemies, good to increase your DPS. Power of Sire, which has iframes to it, is one of the only holy elemental attacks that Alucard currently has, and does something called purifying enemies. If you don't know what purify is, enemies that can't be destroyed permanently, like red skeletons, are destroyed by it. Gas Cloud, which basically he turns to mist form, it has iframes, you can move around in it. The whole screen gets hit with a burst of poison. The closer they are to where you are, the more the poison stacks. If you guys didn't know, there are elemental statuses in the game. Go watch some of my videos on my Patreon page and you'll see there's a bunch of them. Yes, I know. The question that comes up now is, wait a minute, does that mean Mistform is a sub-weapon? Well, Mistform in the classic sense of using it to dodge attacks is a sub-weapon because it was broken in the original game. But you still get a Mistform relic that'll allow you to pass through grates. And once you have Mistform, it also allows you to modify certain things like your air rush. You can use Bat Moon to air rush every so often and have some iframes and use it offensively. The backstep has a similar thing planned where you can backstep away and you turn to a cloud of black and bats that enemies near you'll take some damage from. Just things to enhance the moves he already has, but I'm not going to go into too much detail on that because, again, spoilers. I really want to wait till these things are implemented and you guys see them in action so you realize this isn't a fantasy. This is stuff that's being worked on and is already WIP. Vampire Kiss, for those who don't know, I'll try to put up a video here of it, but I showed a video a while back of Alucard disappearing. It's all new animations and grabbing an enemy and ripping his throat out, and another enemy that was a skeleton that doesn't have blood, where he lifted him up, shoved his hand through his back, pulled out his soul and crushed it. That's now been turned into a sub-weapon because it was just too powerful as a regular move. If an enemy can't be grabbed, he does the same teleport and does a slash in the air that hits multiple times and inflicts stacks of bleed and ground bounces. Does high breach as well. If you don't know what breach is, think of a big enemy going into its pain animation. And let's not forget, Alucard has Familiars, which at the moment, Demon and Fairy Familiar. The Bat Familiar is already involved with Bat form. I don't need to talk about that. The Sword Familiar likely is going to end up with another character because I have no use for it, considering Alucard already has a weapon set that involves the Heaven Sword. I won't touch on that one though, again, spoilers. But the Fairy Familiar at the moment is a more defensive one. It does launch a projectile every so often while it's flying behind you. It's not just sitting there anymore. Okay? And it does have a hammer move that you can hit the sub-weapon button to have it go out and smash an enemy with the hammer. It hits enemies near it. They're petrified or frozen. It'll shatter them. And it can be used to break you out of petrify or freeze as well and give you iframes so you don't take damage during it, but that's a different story. I'm just going into that description so you guys understand the Fairy isn't so passive anymore. You can hit the sub-weapon button to do extra things with her. The Demon's the same thing. He's a DPS increase. He follows behind you, he attacks enemies, but you can hit the sub-weapon button to make him either use his Fire Spear or his Lightning Spear or even a Freezing Spear. And he does passively attack enemies, including with his multi-hit stab where he screams die to the enemy. But that's all the detail I can go into on him right now. Again, I want to save this stuff for when it's in the game and you guys see for yourself and your eyes pop out of your skull. So, what have I been doing this month in summary? A lot of conceptual info, which again, you guys saw the document earlier. I might put it back up on screen here so again you can see 5,300 words worth of stuff, 8 pages long. A test environment where I tested out a lot of this conceptual stuff for the weapons because I need to make sure things work. We need to have a mixture of things that are good for people that want to speed run, a mix of things that are good for people that want to tank through enemies, a mix of high risk, high reward type things where maybe you have a glass cannon that blasts around, you do a lot of damage, but you take a lot of damage as a process, and then you can get back some of that HP by hitting enemies after you're damaged. That's something I haven't mentioned yet that was inspired by Dead Cells' rally mechanic. When you take damage, some of the HP you lose is recoverable, but again, that's a story for another day because this video is going on almost 20 minutes already. Testing those things out, fixed a couple of bugs that I found on the project, implemented a couple things related to shops and menus that, again, can't really go into just yet, spoilers, as well as coding more stuff for Alucard's basic movement, jumping, attacking, etc., etc. So overall, been a productive month, very happy with it. We'll see if next month I want to go back to the regular changelog or I want to continue doing these videos because I'm not very good at video editing. I mean, I'm just recording here and talking into the mic and hoping this doesn't turn out as one long rant to everybody. If it does, I apologize, but you know, again, every second I spend on video production is a second I could spend on coding or conceptual information or talking to an artist or testing something. So I just rather not spend time on all the fluff of talking about how awesome this project is going and look at me, I'm so great. Again, function over form. And I consider these updates to be just a bunch of form. I do need the donations, but I mean, I'd rather spend that time developing. That's what my passion is. So, alright, that's it. I think I'm going to stop speaking now. This video is very long. Again, I hope you guys enjoyed seeing the various animations that scattered throughout of weapons. I'll try to put some kind of editing in so you can see the name of each weapon and you guys know where this is going. They're going to be of primarily clubs, swords, two-handed swords, great spears, you know. But I think that's enough for the moment. I don't really want to go through a bunch of things you've seen already. Like everybody's seen Summon Spirit in the original game. You know what it'll be like as a regular weapon here. You know what Hellfire's like. You know what Dark Inferno's like. It's just boring. And a lot of the animations I have for Alucard, well, I'm just showing you guys them so you can see the level of quality that's going into this game here. And you guys know where your donations are going to. Again, I want to thank everybody for the support. I definitely want to give a huge shout out to all of my patrons, especially my top gold tier supporters. You know, you guys are making the difference here. And I got news for the people that don't know. A lot of those supporters, those top ones, they're long-time supporters, guys. They're definitely the ones keeping this project on its toes. They're keeping things going, you know, because as much as I have all this passion for this and I want to see this thing get completed, see it be a reality, I say it all the time. I'm an adult. Real life has to come first. I have to pay bills. I have to pay sprite artists. I have to pay conceptual people. I have to pay anybody that I, you know, jump on the Unity forums and say, hey, I'm stuck on this thing. Can I get an hour of your time? And trust me when I say getting a private tutor for something I'm stuck on, whether it's doing, you know, bones, 3D objects, coding movement, an attack system, enemies, they're going to probably charge me about $100 an hour. So it doesn't come cheap. That's $600 a month. Trust me when I say I'm dipping into my pocket constantly to make this a reality. So, but I digress. Again, thank you everybody for all the support. If you want to help with the project, you know, spread the word. You know, I see people going out there going, no, keep this project hush-hush so it doesn't get a C and D. Well, if you don't spread the word, the project's never going to be a reality because the donations need to go up. The support is just more important than the risk. So spread the word. Put it out on forums. Put it on social media. Put it on Discord. Put it on Facebook. Make videos about it. If you see videos, Castlevania videos up on YouTube, put up it in the comments. You know, hey, here's a fan project going on. It's been going on for a while. This guy's a little insane. He needs a little support. Jump on the Patreon. Give what you can. If you can give $5 a month, great. I'll take that. I won't complain. And as always, if you're not a donator, you're not a supporter, that's fine. Look in the video description. There's a Facebook group up for any like-minded Castlevania fans who want to join it. There is a forum up. The forum is very quiet at the moment because, again, it's designed for bug reporting, and that's pretty much it. And with only a demo out, there's not a lot of traffic there. It's that simple. Okay? It's also designed for when I need conceptual stuff. I'm planning on putting up a Discord channel sometime in the next couple of months, which will probably replace a lot of the forum stuff, because let's be real, forums are outdated. All right, that's that. Again, sorry for going on and on. I'm just very excited about everything I've gotten done here, and I hope you guys are liking what you're seeing. Leave a comment down below. If you're not a Patreon supporter, go join right now. You can also make a one-time PayPal donation. Link will be in the video description, and I'll talk to you all soon. Thanks for the support. Deuces.